the hidden influence of soft words, why you're controlled. We like to believe that power is loud, that control comes in the form of force, that influence is something we can see, something we can fight against. But what if the greatest form of control isn't aggressive at all? What if the most effective way to shape a person's mind, to direct their actions, to dictate their beliefs, is not through force, but through something far more subtle, soft words, but gentle persuasion, the quiet repetition of ideas that seem harmless at first, but slowly reshape how you think? What if the most dangerous form of control is the one you don't even realize is happening? And think about it. When someone yells at you, when they try to force you into something, your instinct is to resist. You recognize the attack. You feel the pressure. Your defenses go up. But when the influence is soft, when it comes in the form of carefully chosen words, repeated ideas, subtle emotional appeals, you don't resist. You absorb, you internalize, and over time, without even realizing it, your thoughts are no longer entirely your own. This is how you are controlled, not through direct confrontation, but through slow conditioning. But who is controlling you, and how? Look at the world around you. Look at the messages you consume every day, the news, social media, advertisements, entertainment, even casual conversations. Every word you hear, every image you see, every idea you are exposed to is shaping your perception of reality. And the most effective forms of control don't tell you what to think outright. They guide you toward conclusions without you realizing you were led there. They don't say, "Believe this." They ask, "Have you ever noticed how this is true?" And suddenly, you accept it as your own thought. This is why soft words are more dangerous than direct commands. A command can be questioned, resisted, rejected. But a suggestion, a carefully phrased statement, a repeated idea framed as common sense, these slip past your defenses. They don't challenge you, they comfort you. They make you feel like you are making up your own mind when, in reality, your thoughts have been gently shaped by forces outside of you. And this happens everywhere.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Look at how society frames success, happiness, relationships, even morality. You are constantly being fed ideas about what is normal, what is desirable, what is right or wrong. And these ideas don't come at you as orders, they come as narratives, as cultural norms, as things that everyone just knows. But who decided these things? Where did these ideas originate? And more importantly, do they serve you or do they serve someone else? The most powerful form of control is the one that makes you believe you are free. If you believe you are thinking for yourself, if you believe your opinions are entirely your own, you will never question them. You will never ask, "Why do I believe this?" And that is exactly why soft words are so effective. But they don't just influence your thoughts, they make you believe those thoughts were yours from the beginning. So here's the real question: how much of what you believe is truly yours? How many of your opinions, your values, your desires are the result of deliberate choice, and how many have been shaped by the invisible influence of soft words, of repeated messages, cultural conditioning? What? And if you were truly free, how different would your mind be? The illusion of free thought, how your mind is programmed without you knowing. We all like to believe we are independent thinkers, that our opinions are our own, that we reach conclusions through logic and personal experience. But what if that belief itself is an illusion? What if, without realizing it, the majority of what we think, what we value, What we consider to be our own opinions are nothing more than carefully implanted ideas, subtly programmed into us over time. What if the very act of thinking you are free is part of the control itself? Consider this. From the moment you were born, you have been absorbing information, first from your parents, then from school, then from the media, from your peers, from the culture around you. At no point were you given a completely blank slate to think freely. Instead, you were handed a framework, a way of seeing the world, a way of interpreting reality that was shaped by forces beyond your awareness. And the most dangerous part, it never felt like programming. It felt like learning. It felt like truth. But how much of that truth have you ever questioned? How often do you stop and ask yourself, why do I believe this? Not just about politics or religion, but about everything, about success, about happiness, about what a good life looks like, about what is worth pursuing and what is not. Because if you trace your beliefs back to their origins, you will often find they were not conclusions you reached on your own, but assumptions you adopted because they were repeated enough times to feel self-evident. And that is how programming works, not by forcing you to believe something, but by surrounding you with an idea so persistently that you never even think to question it. Look at how social norms are formed. Over time, certain behaviors, certain values, certain lifestyles become acceptable, while others become unacceptable. But who decides this? And how does it happen? It happens through repetition, through soft reinforcement, through the gradual reshaping of what is considered normal. It happens through media, through influencers, through subtle cues in conversation that signal what is right and what is wrong. And because these signals come from all directions, from sources you trust and respect, you internalize them without resistance. But you don't feel controlled, you feel like you're simply adapting to reality. But reality is not objective. Reality is constructed. The way you see the world is shaped by the narratives you have been exposed to, and those narratives are not random. They serve purposes, they benefit certain groups, they create certain outcomes. And the more unaware you are of this, the more easily you are led. Because if you never question the framework you were given, if you never step outside of the programming, you will live your entire life believing you are free while following a script written for you. So how do you escape this? How do you reclaim your mind? The first step is the most difficult, admitting that you have been influenced more than you realize. It is uncomfortable to accept that many of your strongest beliefs may not be yours at all. It is unsettling to realize that your desires, your fears, your ambitions may have been shaped by forces that never had your best interest in mind. But discomfort is necessary, because only when you recognize the illusion can you begin to break free from it. So ask yourself, what beliefs have you never questioned? What ideas do you hold so deeply that they feel like absolute truth? And where did they come from? If you can't trace the origin of a belief, if you can't explain why you hold it beyond that's just how things are, then you have already found a piece of the programming. And once you see it, you can no longer unsee it. Breaking the chains, how to rebuild your mind and think for yourself once you recognize that much of what you believe, value, and pursue has been shaped by unseen forces. The question becomes, what now? Because awareness alone is not enough. Knowing you have been influenced does not automatically free you from that influence. The real challenge is breaking the chains, rewiring your mind, stripping away false beliefs, and learning to think for yourself in a world that thrives on keeping you controlled. But how do you do that? How do you separate what is truly yours from what has been planted in you? The first step is radical self-examination. Most people live their entire lives without ever questioning why they think the way they do. They mistake familiarity for truth. They assume that because an idea feels right, it is right. But feeling right and being right are not the same. Feelings can be manipulated. Comfort can be a trap. And the only way to break free is to develop the habit of questioning everything. Every belief, every assumption, every desire, trace them back to their origins. Ask yourself, who told me this? Where did this idea come from? Who benefits from me believing this? If you cannot answer those questions, you do not truly own that belief. It owns you. But questioning alone is not enough. You must also unlearn. And unlearning is harder than learning because it requires you to strip away parts of your identity that you have built around false ideas. It requires you to let go of comforting illusions, to dismantle the narratives that make you feel safe but keep you small. And this is painful. Because when you start unlearning, you realize how much of your life has been spent chasing things that were never truly yours to begin with, goals you inherited, but fears you absorbed, limitations you accepted without ever testing them. And when you let go of those things, you are left with a terrifying question: who am I without them? This is where most people stop. The fear of the unknown is too great. The idea of rebuilding their mind from the ground up is too overwhelming. So they retreat back into the familiar, back into the programming, back into the comfortable illusion that at least gives them a sense of certainty. But if you can push past this fear, if you can embrace the discomfort of not knowing who you are without the lies, you will discover something most people never do: freedom. Not the illusion of freedom, but real, raw, unshackled freedom, the ability to think without filters, to see without distortion, to make choices that are truly your own. But freedom comes with responsibility. When you are no longer controlled by external narratives, you can no longer blame the world for your circumstances. You can no longer hide behind excuses, behind the idea that you are just a product of your environment. Because now you know that you have the power to reshape your mind, to redefine your values, to reconstruct your reality. And the moment you accept that, you lose the right to complain. You lose the right to sit in victimhood, because now you are in control. And that is terrifying, because it means if you do nothing, if you remain stuck, if you waste your life, it is no one's fault but your own. So ask yourself, are you willing to do what most people will never do? Are you willing to step into the unknown, to question everything, to let go of the comforting lies you've been told? Because if you are, you will gain something most people will never have the ability to truly think for yourself. And once you do, you will see the world for what it really is. Not as it was taught to you, not as it was sold to you, but as it is. The true cost of freedom, why most people choose to stay controlled. Freedom is not what most people think it is. It is not just the ability to make choices, to live without restriction, to do whatever you want. The true freedom is something much deeper, much harder, and much rarer. It is the ability to think without influence, to act without hidden manipulation, to exist outside the frameworks that society has built for you. And while many claim to want this kind of freedom, very few are actually willing to pay the price for it. Because the truth is, freedom is not given, it is taken. And the cost of taking it is higher than most people are willing to bear. Why? Because freedom comes with uncertainty. When you are controlled, when your beliefs and decisions are shaped by external forces, Life is simple. You don't have to question everything. You don't have to carry the burden of deciding what is true, what is right, what is worth pursuing. You simply follow the script. You believe what you are told to believe. You chase what you are told to chase, and in return, you are given a sense of stability, of belonging, of certainty. Even if that certainty is an illusion, it is comforting. And for most people, comfort is worth more than truth. But when you break free, when you strip away the false beliefs, reject the narratives that have been imposed on you, and start thinking for yourself, you step into a world where nothing is certain. You can no longer rely on pre-packaged answers, on easy definitions of success, happiness, morality. You have to construct your own meaning, build your own values, determine your own path. And that is terrifying, because it means that if you fail, if you make the wrong choices, if your life turns out to be empty or meaningless, you have no one to blame but yourself. This is why most people stay controlled. Not because they don't see the truth, not because they are incapable of thinking independently, but because they are afraid of what true freedom demands. It demands responsibility. It demands discomfort. It demands that you walk away from the safety of the herd and stand alone in a world where no one is guiding you, no one is telling you what to do, but no one is assuring you that you are on the right path. And for many, that is too much to handle. So they choose to remain asleep. They choose to believe what is convenient, to follow the crowd, to accept the narratives that make life easier to navigate. They convince themselves that they are already free, that they are thinking for themselves, that they are making their own choices even as they follow the same patterns, but chase the same illusions, and live the same scripted lives as everyone around them. And because they never question it, because they never test the limits of their own beliefs, they never realize just how deeply controlled they truly are. But here's the real tragedy. The people who avoid freedom to escape its burdens do not actually escape suffering. They simply exchange one form of suffering for another. Because while freedom comes with uncertainty, control comes with emptiness. To live a life dictated by external forces is to live a life that is not fully yours. It is to wake up one day and realize that you have spent decades chasing things you never truly wanted, believing things you never truly examined, becoming a person you never consciously chose to be. And when that realization comes, it is too late. Because time is the one thing you can never get back. So the question is not whether you can be free. You can. The question is whether you are willing to endure what freedom requires. Are you willing to let go of certainty, to embrace doubt, to take full responsibility for your mind, your choices, your life? Or will you choose the comfort of control, the ease of following the script, the safety of never having to question whether the thoughts in your head are truly your own? Because in the end, that is the real choice. Not between freedom and control, but between truth and comfort, between the harsh reality of thinking for yourself and the soothing illusion of being led. And which one you choose will determine everything about the life you live, the person you become, and the legacy you leave behind.